Ambassador Sarah Chen stared at the holographic document floating above her desk. She had read it 3 times now, but the words still made her stomach turn. The blue text of Directive 847C glowed softly in her dark office aboard the human embassy. Station. Mandatory behavioral modification protocols for all human offspring between ages 5 to 16, she read aloud to the empty room, to correct aggressive tendencies and promote galactic harmony. Sarah had served as Earth's primary representative to the Galactic Council for 8 years. She had swallowed her pride countless times, smiled politely through insults, and watched as humanity was treated like children at the adults' table. But this was different. This crossed every line. The door chimed and her assistant Marcus walked in. His usually cheerful face was grim. "Ambassador, the council chamber is ready for your response." Sarah stood up slowly. She was tired. Tired of being talked down to by species that had never faced real hardship. Tired of watching human innovations be dismissed as crude, while the same ideas were praised when presented by council favorites. Most of all, she was tired of being told that humanity needed to be fixed. The walk to the council chamber felt longer than usual. The station's corridors were filled with beings from across the galaxy. The tall, graceful Althari with their silver skin, the insect-like Zephyrians clicking as they walked, the massive Gorvani floating in their mobility suits. All of them had looked down on humanity since first contact 33 years ago. The council chamber was a massive dome, with seats arranged in perfect circles around the central speaking platform. Representatives from 847 species sat in order of their development level. Humanity sat in the outer ring along with the other junior species. Council Prime Vaxton, an Althari with skin that seemed to shimmer like liquid metal, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the chamber with automatic translation reaching every ear. "We gather today to hear the human response to Directive 847C, Vaxton announced. "The Council has determined that human children require guidance to become proper galactic citizens." Sarah walked to the central platform. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes watched with expressions ranging from boredom to disgust. She had given speeches here before, always carefully worded, always diplomatic. "Not today. Honored Council," she began, her voice steady. "Humanity respectfully declines to implement Directive 847C. A ripple of clicking, chirping, and other sounds went through the chamber. Several representatives were clearly amused. One Gorvani's translator picked up his comment. "The children refuse to be disciplined." Counselor Threx, a Zephyrian whose mandibles clacked when he spoke, leaned forward. "Ambassador Chen, perhaps you misunderstand. This is not a request. This is a directive from the Council. Your species will comply." Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. "And if we refuse? Then humanity will face the consequences of defying galactic law," Vaxton replied smoothly. "Economic sanctions, technology restrictions, possible suspension from Council membership. You would punish an entire species because we won't let you reprogram our children? We would guide a backward species toward civilization," another voice called out from the Korthani section. Laughter followed. Sarah looked around the chamber. These beings spoke of humanity like they were discussing a pet that needed training. They saw human emotion as weakness, human curiosity as dangerous, human independence as rebellion that needed to be crushed. "May I ask?" Sarah said quietly. "What specific behaviors you plan to modify?" Vaxton gestured, and a new hologram appeared. Human children display concerning traits. Excessive questions about authority, risk-taking behavior, emotional outbursts when faced with restrictions. These must be corrected. You want to remove curiosity from our children. We want to remove chaos, Threx corrected. Human children refuse to accept proper guidance. They question everything, even when the answers are beyond their understanding. Sarah nodded slowly. "I see. And which species will be administering this modification?" "The Althari have graciously offered their expertise," Vaxton replied. "They have successfully guided several younger species toward proper development." Sarah had read about those successes. The Villani had once been explorers and inventors. Now they were quiet, obedient, and hadn't produced a single new idea in 2 centuries. The Morthek had been warriors and poets. Now they were efficient, workers who never questioned orders. "How long do you give us to begin implementation?" Sarah asked. 60 of your days, Vax then announced. Modification centers will be established on your major worlds. All human children will be processed within 2 standard years. Processed. Sarah repeated the word like it tasted bitter. Like data. Like future galactic citizens, Vax then corrected. Coldly. Sarah stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of hundreds of stares. In her mind, she could see human children laughing, asking endless questions, building impossible things just to see if they could. She thought of her own daughter back on Earth, who wanted to be an explorer like the old Earth stories. Very well, Sarah said finally. Humanity will provide our response within 60 days. The chamber erupted in satisfied sounds from various species. They had expected more fight from the humans. Sarah walked back to her seat with her head held high, ignoring the smug looks from other representatives. But as she sat down, Sarah was already thinking about the message she would send to Earth tonight. Not through official channels, those were monitored. She would use the old codes, the ones established when humanity first encountered species that might not have their best interests at heart. The session continued with other business, but Sarah barely heard it. In her mind, she was already composing a very different kind of message than what the council expected. Not a plea for mercy or a request for negotiation. A warning. That night, alone in her quarters, Sarah activated her personal communication array. She entered a series of codes that most of the galaxy didn't even know existed. When the connection was secure, she spoke 3 simple words. Protocol 7, execute. On the other end of the transmission, deep in the Sol system, Admiral James Harrison heard the message. He looked out at the fleet of ships that officially didn't exist, at the research stations hidden in asteroid fields, at the manufacturing facilities that produced things no one was supposed to know about. Send the word, he told his communications officer. All human worlds, all stations, all ships, Protocol 7 is active. Across the galaxy, humans received the message. Not just military personnel or government officials, but ordinary people who had been quietly preparing for this day since humanity first realized what kind of galaxy they really lived in. Teachers began making arrangements for their students. Parents started packing bags. Engineers began final system checks on projects that had been decades in the making. The Galactic Council thought they were about to discipline a child. They had no idea they had just woken up something that had been waiting 33 years for the right moment to show them what humanity was truly capable of. The 60-day countdown had begun, but the Council had made one critical error in their calculations. They assumed humanity would spend those 60 days begging for mercy. Instead, humanity was about to disappear. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the cargo ships dock at Luna Station through her office window. To anyone monitoring the traffic, it looked like normal trade operations. Food shipments, medical supplies, consumer goods. Nothing unusual. What the monitors couldn't see were the passenger manifests that didn't exist and the cargo containers with hidden compartments. Status report, Elena said to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Torres. Evacuation is ahead of schedule, Torres replied, checking his tablet. We've moved 12,000 civilians off-world in the past week. The Council thinks they're just taking extended vacations or visiting family. Elena nodded. It had taken 30 years to set up the networks they were using now. When humanity first joined the galactic community, some people had been suspicious. They noticed how other species looked at humans, how they talked about humanity when they thought no one was listening. Those suspicious people had started making plans. They called themselves the contingency. Not officially, because official groups could be tracked and monitored. Instead, they were teachers who quietly taught children skills not found in standard curriculums. Engineers who designed systems with hidden capabilities. Traders who mapped routes through empty space. Military officers who ran exercises that weren't in any official records. For 30 years, They had prepared for the day when humanity might need to leave the galactic community behind. That day had arrived. "Any problems with the council monitors?" Elena asked. "None so far," Torres replied. "Our AI is feeding them normal traffic patterns. As far as they know, human shipping is actually down this month." The AI Torres mentioned was called Spartacus, though that name appeared nowhere in official records. It had been built in pieces across dozens of human worlds, each part seeming innocent by itself. When assembled, it was capable of things that would have terrified the council. Elena's communicator chimed. "Captain, this is Doc 7. We have a problem." Elena sighed. "What kind of problem?" "A Zephyrian inspection team just arrived. They want to examine our manifest records." This was exactly what they had prepared for. "Send them to conference room C. I'll be right there." Elena straightened her uniform and walked to the meeting room. 3 Zephyrians were waiting, their insect-like forms clicking nervously. The lead inspector, whose translator identified him as Keck 7, approached her. "Captain Vasquez, we are conducting routine inspections of human facilities. The council wants to ensure all species are maintaining proper standards." "Of course," Elena replied politely. "What can I show you?" For the next 2 hours, Elena guided the inspectors through Luna Station. They saw exactly what she wanted them to see. Normal operations, standard cargo, routine maintenance, the hidden levels, the modified ships, the people sleeping in concealed compartments. None of that appeared on their tour. "Your security seems adequate," Keck 7 finally admitted. "Though we notice your population has decreased recently. Many families are taking vacations before the children start their new education programs," Elena replied smoothly. "You know how humans are about family time." The Zephyrian made a sound that might have been amusement. "Yes, your species does seem overly attached to your offspring. This will be corrected soon enough." Elena kept her expression neutral, but inside she felt cold anger. These beings talked about human children like they were defective products that needed fixing. After the inspectors left, Elena returned to her office and activated a secure channel. "Phoenix Base, this is Luna Station. Package delivery is proceeding on schedule." "Confirmed, Luna Station," came the reply from a location that officially didn't exist. "All nests are reporting successful transfers. Timeline remains stable." Elena looked at the data streaming across her screens. In the past week, human populations had dropped by 8% across the galaxy. Not all at once, not in any pattern that would trigger alarms. Just steady, quiet movement that looked like normal civilian travel. Meanwhile, in the Vega system, Dr. Sarah Kim was overseeing the final stages of Project Looking Glass. Her research station was officially studying stellar formation. Unofficially, it was humanity's most advanced technology development facility. "How are our new toys coming along?" she asked her lead engineer, Dr. Patel. "The quantum drives are performing better than expected," Patel replied. "We can move a ship the size of a battlecruiser without leaving any trace in hyperspace. And the other projects? Stealth coding is ready for mass production. The weapon systems are..." Patel paused. "They're things the galaxy has never seen before." Dr. Kim nodded. Humanity had been studying galactic technology for 3 decades, but they hadn't just been learning. They had been improving, combining concepts in ways that supposedly advanced species had never considered. The council called human approaches crude and inelegant. They preferred solutions that followed established patterns, methods that had worked for thousands of years. Humans preferred solutions that worked, period. "What about the Psychological Warfare Division?" Dr. Kim asked. "Ready to deploy," Patel said with a slight smile. "The council has no idea what's coming." Across human space, similar conversations were happening. Military commanders were reviewing final attack plans. Civilian coordinators were checking evacuation schedules. Engineers were running last tests on weapons that broke every galactic law about proper warfare. On Earth, President Martinez stood in the Situation Room beneath the Capitol building. The walls were covered with displays showing human populations, fleet positions, and council activities across the galaxy. "Status report," she said to the room. 37% of human civilians are now at secure locations, reported General Santos. Council monitoring shows normal activity levels. They suspect nothing. And our military assets? 70% have been quietly moved to staging areas. The remaining 30% are maintaining normal patrol schedules to avoid suspicion. President Martinez looked at the display showing Council fleet positions. Massive ships filled with beings who thought humanity needed to be taught proper behavior. Ships that would soon discover what proper human behavior actually looked like when humans stopped pretending to be harmless. What's the word from our embedded assets? She asked. Intelligence Director Chen stepped forward. Our people in Council facilities report that planning for the human behavioral modification program is proceeding. They're actually excited about it. They think they're about to solve the human problem permanently. President Martinez felt the same cold anger that Elena had experienced. For 30 years, humanity had tried to be good galactic citizens. They had followed rules that made no sense, accepted insults with polite smiles, and watched as their children were told that human nature was something to be ashamed of. Now the Council wanted to change human children into something else entirely. They wanted to remove the very things that made humans human. Time to final phase? Martinez asked. 18 days, General Santos replied. All assets will be in position, all civilians will be secure, and all preparations will be complete. Good. Martinez looked around the room at the faces of people who had spent years preparing for this moment. Send the final message to Ambassador Chen. Tell her that humanity appreciates the Council's generous offer, but we must respectfully decline. And the real message? Director Chen asked. Tell her it's time to come home, Martinez said quietly. All of them, every human in Council space, because in 18 days there won't be a Council space anymore. The evacuation continued. To outside observers, it looked like humans were finally accepting their place in the galactic order. Trade continued, diplomatic communications remained polite, and human representatives attended Council meetings with apparent cooperation. But deep in the dark spaces between stars, in hidden bases that had been decades in the making, humanity was preparing to show the galaxy something they had never seen before, a species that refused to be caged. Council Prime Vax then stood on the bridge of the massive inspection vessel Eternal Harmony as it approached Earth's solar system. Behind him, a fleet of 30 ships carried the equipment and personnel needed to establish the first human behavioral modification centers. Finally, muttered Councillor Threx, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The humans have stopped their pathetic protests and accepted reality. Vax then nodded. For the past 2 weeks, human representatives had been remarkably cooperative. They had provided facility locations, population data, and administrative support for the modification program. It was exactly what the Council expected once a species realized resistance was futile. Sir, called the navigation officer, a young Althari named Kalesh. We're receiving standard approach clearances from human traffic control. Everything appears normal. Excellent, Vax then replied. Begin final approach to Earth. As the fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, something felt wrong to Kalesh, though he couldn't identify what. The system looked exactly as it should. Ships moved along proper traffic lanes. Stations broadcasted normal identification signals. Planets rotated in their expected positions, but the traffic seemed light. Sir, Kalesh said hesitantly, I'm reading only 60% of normal civilian traffic in the system. The humans are probably hiding, Threx suggested with amusement, afraid to see their betters arrive. Baxton wasn't concerned. Human populations often fluctuated, and their chaotic nature made them unpredictable. The important thing was that human authorities were cooperating with Council directives. The fleet entered Earth orbit without incident. Below them, the blue-green world that had produced so much trouble for galactic peace looked serene and beautiful. Cities glowed with lights. Weather patterns swirled across continents, and everything seemed perfectly normal. Deploying landing forces, reported the tactical officer. First wave will establish Command Center Alpha in the human capital region. Vax then watched as transport ships descended toward Earth's surface. In a few hours, the transformation of humanity would begin. Human children would be gathered, processed, and returned to their families as proper galactic citizens. The dangerous traits that made humans so unpredictable would be corrected. The galaxy would finally be safe from human chaos. 2 hours later, Vax then received a communication that changed everything. Council Prime, came the voice of Ground Commander. Zex 9, we have a situation. What kind of situation? Vax then asked, though something in the commander's tone made his skin crawl. Sir, the cities are empty. Vax then felt the temperature in the bridge seem to drop. Explain. We've landed at 7 major population centers. Traffic lights are functioning, power grids are active, communication networks are operational. But there are no humans anywhere. That's impossible, Threx snapped. Scans showed normal population levels. The scans were correct, sir, Zex 9 replied. But the populations aren't here anymore. We found meals still warm on tables, vehicles abandoned in streets, personal belongings left behind. It's like every human on the planet simply vanished. Vax then stared at the image of Earth rotating slowly below. 12 billion humans lived on that world. They couldn't just disappear. Expand the search, he ordered. Check every city, every settlement, every facility. For the next 6 hours, reports came in from across Earth. The pattern was the same everywhere. Empty homes, abandoned workplaces, deserted schools. No signs of struggle, no distress signals, no bodies. Just empty spaces where human life should have been. Sir, Kelesh called out, his voice shaking slightly. I'm getting similar reports from human colonies throughout the
galaxy.
What reports? Vax then demanded. Mars colony, empty. Alpha Centauri settlements, empty. New Terra, New Hope, Freedom Station. All empty, sir. Every human world and facility we can contact reports the same thing. The bridge fell silent except for the humming of ship systems. Vax then tried to process what he was hearing. Humanity had over 800 worlds, stations, and outposts scattered across the galaxy. They couldn't all be empty. Get me the council emergency session, Vax then ordered. Within an hour, the emergency hologram conference was assembled. Representatives from major council species appeared as glowing figures around the bridge. All of them looked confused and concerned. Explain this situation immediately, demanded High Counselor Morvek of the Gorvani. How does an entire species disappear? We don't know, Vax then admitted. Our scans show no signs of violence, no evidence of evacuation ships, no trace of where they went. This is clearly some kind of human trick, Threx insisted. They're hiding, trying to avoid the modification process. 12 billion beings don't hide, snapped Counselor Yex of the Korthani. This is something else. Chief Science Advisor Kelm, a brilliant Althari theorist, appeared in the hologram. I've been analyzing the data. The power consumption patterns suggest the populations vanished gradually over several weeks, not all at once. But our monitoring systems showed normal human activity throughout that period. How is that possible? Morvek asked. Either our monitoring systems were compromised, Kelm replied slowly, or the humans have technology we don't know about. The implications hit everyone at the same time. If humans could fool galactic monitoring systems for weeks while evacuating their entire species, what else could they do? Check our strategic installations, Morvek ordered. All of them. The reports that came back over the next few hours painted a picture that made council leadership increasingly nervous. Human workers at council facilities throughout the galaxy had simply failed to report for work. Human ships had developed mechanical problems that required them to return to ports that were now empty. Most disturbing of all, human technical specialists who had maintained critical systems for council operations were nowhere to be found. Sir, a Gorvani communications specialist reported to Morvek, we're getting reports of system failures across 17 sectors. Power grids, communication, networks, manufacturing facilities, they're all going offline. How many of those systems were maintained by humans? Morvek asked, though he already suspected the answer. Approximately 80%, sir. The full scope of what had happened began to sink in. Humanity hadn't just disappeared. They had removed themselves from every system they had helped build, every process they had supported, every service they had provided. The galactic economy was beginning to collapse. Find them, Vax then ordered his fleet commanders. Scan every asteroid, every moon, every empty system. They have to be somewhere. But even as he gave the orders, Vax then felt a growing dread. Humans had been part of galactic civilization for 30 years. They had seemed primitive, chaotic, and harmless. The Council had thought they understood humanity perfectly. Now 12 billion humans had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a galaxy that was suddenly discovering how much it had depended on the species they had dismissed as inferior, and, somewhere in the dark spaces between the stars, humanity was watching, waiting, preparing to show the galaxy that they had made a terrible mistake. The Council had wanted to change human children to make them less dangerous. They were about to learn that they should have been worried about human adults instead. Admiral James Harrison stood in the command center of Phoenix Base, watching the holographic display that showed Council fleets scattered across human space. For 3 weeks, they had been searching desperately for any sign of humanity. They found nothing but empty worlds and failing infrastructure. Status report, Harrison said to his staff. All civilian populations are secure in the deep stations, reported Colonel Martinez. 0 casualties, 0 detection. The Council still has no idea where we are. Harrison nodded. The deep stations were humanity's greatest achievement. Massive installations built in the empty space between star systems, using technology that the Council had dismissed as impossible. Hidden in the cosmic background radiation, powered by fusion reactors that left no detectable signature, they were invisible to galactic sensors. And our surprise packages? Deployed and ready, said Captain Williams, his tactical officer. Ghost, Fleet Alpha is in position at Vega. Beta is ready at Procyon. Gamma is standing by at Wolf 359. The Ghost fleets were ships that officially didn't exist, built with materials that didn't appear on any galactic registry, using designs that broke every rule of proper starship construction. They were fast, heavily armed, and most importantly, completely undetectable until they wanted to be seen. Sir, called Lieutenant Kim from the communications station, we're receiving reports from our observation posts. Council fleets are experiencing significant equipment failures. Harrison smiled grimly. For 30 years, humans had been the galaxy's favorite technicians. They fixed what was broken, improved what was inefficient, and maintained systems that other species couldn't understand. What the galaxy didn't realize was that humans had been very careful about how they provided those services. Every system humans had touched contained hidden subroutines, backdoors, and remote access protocols. With the press of a button, human technicians could shut down power grids, disable communication networks, or cause critical systems to develop mysterious problems. The galaxy was discovering that they couldn't function without the species they had tried to correct. Time to begin Phase 2, Harrison announced. Across the galaxy, Council forces were dealing with crisis after crisis. On the industrial world of Kepler 442, the entire manufacturing grid had shut down when human-maintained fusion reactors went offline. The Althari Council there was frantically trying to restart systems that humans had operated for decades. At the same time, in the Rigel system, Council Fleet Commander Vex 3 was staring at his tactical display in confusion. Sir, his sensor operator reported, I'm detecting unknown ships at the edge of the system. How many ships? Vex 3 asked. I count 37 vessels. Configuration unknown. They don't match any design in our databases. Vex 3 frowned. His fleet contained 58 ships, including 3 massive battle cruisers. Unknown vessels shouldn't pose a threat. Hail them, he ordered. A few moments later, a human face appeared on the main screen. Vex 3 had seen humans before, but this one was different. Cold eyes, military bearing, and an expression that suggested he was looking at something he intended to destroy. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Liberation Fleet, the woman said. You are ordered to withdraw from human space immediately. Vex 3 almost laughed. Human? But humans have disappeared, and even if they hadn't, 37 ships against 58? You cannot be serious. We are very serious, Chen replied. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal or we will remove you. Remove us. Vex 3 clicked his mandibles in amusement. With what weapons? Human technology is decades behind ours. Chen's expression didn't change. 50 seconds. Vex 3 cut. The communication and turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them. What happened next would be studied by military academicians for centuries. The unknown ship suddenly vanished from sensors, reappearing moments later in completely different positions. Council weapons fired at empty space while return fire came from directions that shouldn't have been possible. The human ships moved like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They didn't follow proper fleet formations or engage according to established tactical doctrine. Instead, they used hit-and-run attacks, false retreats, and coordinated strikes that confused and overwhelmed Council forces. How are they doing this? Vex 3 demanded as his ships were picked apart one by one. Sir, their ships appear to be using some kind of quantum displacement drive, his science officer reported. And their weapons, they're not energy-based or projectile-based. They seem to be manipulating space-time itself. Within 20 minutes, Vex 3's fleet was reduced to burning wreckage. His own ship was crippled, life support failing, weapons offline. Captain Chen appeared on his screen again. Next time we won't give you 60 seconds, she said calmly. Then the transmission ended. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Council fleets that had been sent to search for humans instead found themselves under attack by forces that fought like nothing they had ever encountered. The humans didn't line up their ships and exchange fire according to proper military doctrine. They used ambush tactics, stealth technology, and weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Most disturbing of all, they showed no interest in taking prisoners or following the galactic rules of warfare. On the Council homeworld, emergency sessions were being held around the clock. High Counselor Morvek floated in his mobility suit, studying reports that made no sense. How many fleets have we lost? He asked his military advisor. 17 so far, Admiral Kex Prime replied, with more under attack as we speak. And we still don't know where they're operating from? No, sir, they appear, attack, and disappear. Our sensors can't track them. Science advisor Kelm appeared via hologram, his normally calm demeanor shaken. High Counselor, I've been analyzing the human weapons. They're using technologies we thought were purely theoretical. Gravitational manipulation, quantum phase shifting, temporal distortion fields. How is that possible? Morvek demanded. Human science was primitive. Apparently not, Kelm replied grimly. Either they've been hiding their true capabilities for decades, or they've developed all of this since they disappeared. The truth was both simpler and more terrifying than the Council could imagine. Humans had indeed been hiding their capabilities, but they had also been learning. Every interaction with galactic technology had been studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. What took other species millennia to develop, humans had accomplished in decades through pure determination and refusal to accept limitations. The Council had mistaken human adaptability for primitiveness. They had seen human willingness to learn as evidence of inferiority. They had completely misunderstood what they were dealing with. Sir, the communications officer called to Morvek. We're receiving a galaxy-wide transmission. It's on all frequencies, impossible to block. Put it through, Morvek ordered. The face that appeared was older than Chen's, with gray hair and scars that spoke of a military career. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. This is Admiral Harrison of the Human Defense Force, the man said. For 33 years, humanity has tried to be good galactic citizens. We followed your rules, accepted your insults, and tried to find our place in your civilization. You responded by deciding our children needed to be reprogrammed to better suit your preferences. Harrison's expression hardened. That was a mistake. You have seen what we are capable of when we stop pretending to be harmless. What you have experienced so far is merely a demonstration. We are offering you one chance to avoid learning what human warfare truly looks like. Withdraw all Council forces from human space. Abandon your behavioral modification programs. Recognize humanity as an independent power with full sovereignty over our worlds and people. You have 72 hours to comply. The transmission ended. leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. They were no longer dealing with a junior species that needed guidance. They were facing an enemy that had been preparing for war for 30 years. High Counselor Morveck's response came 57 hours after Admiral Harrison's ultimatum. The massive council fleet that emerged from hyperspace near Earth was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships from dozens of species, carrying enough firepower to crack planets. Human Admiral, Morveck's voice boomed across all communication channels. You will surrender immediately. Your species will submit to behavioral modification or face complete annihilation. This is not negotiable. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the hidden command station that had become humanity's true capital. Around him, displays showed the massive council fleet positioning itself for attack. Every human in the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. All units, Harrison said calmly into his communicator, execute final protocol. What happened next would be remembered as the day the galaxy learned what humans were really capable of. The council fleet never saw the first attack. One moment, they were in formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. The next moment, their flagship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed in an explosion, not torn apart by weapons fire, it simply wasn't there anymore. What happened to the Eternal? Glory? Morveck demanded from his command ship. Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied, voice shaking. It just vanished. Then another ship disappeared, and another. Council vessels were being erased from existence with no visible weapons fire, no energy signatures, no explanation. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Morveck ordered. But there was nowhere to run. The human forces weren't using conventional tactics or fighting from fixed positions. They were everywhere and nowhere, striking from directions that didn't exist, using weapons that turned the laws of physics into suggestions. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded one of the human ships attacking the council fleet. Her vessel, the Defiance, looked nothing like traditional starship designs. It was sleek, predatory, and equipped with technology that would have been considered impossible 30 years ago. Target the command ship, she ordered her weapons officer. Temporal, disruption torpedoes locked and ready, came the reply. Fire. The weapon that struck Morveck's ship didn't explode on impact. Instead, it created a bubble of altered time around the vessel. From the outside, the ship appeared to slow down, then stop completely. Inside, the crew experienced time normally while watching the universe speed up around them. They were trapped in a temporal prison, aware but helpless. Similar fates befell council ships throughout the system. Some were caught in gravitational fields that folded space around them. Others found themselves phased partially out of normal spacetime. Still others simply had their electronics turned against them by viruses that shouldn't have been able to affect galactic standard systems. But the most devastating attack wasn't aimed at the ships at all. Across the galaxy, every council world simultaneously received the same transmission, not through their communication networks which had been compromised, but directly into the minds of every sentient being on the planet. It was a simple message, but one that shattered the foundation of galactic civilization. The transmission contained proof that the Council had been lying for thousands of years, images, documents, recordings, all showing how the benevolent Council maintained power by suppressing technological development in younger species, how they had deliberately prevented dozens of civilizations from reaching their full potential, how the behavioral modification programs had been used on numerous species to create docile, obedient populations. Species that had been told they were naturally less advanced than Council members discovered they had been sabotaged. Worlds that had been classified as developing learned their progress had been deliberately slowed. Entire civilizations realized they had been living as slaves while believing they were partners. The psychological effect was immediate and devastating. Across the galaxy, Council authority collapsed as subject species rose in rebellion. Not just humans fighting alone, but hundreds of species that had been kept down for millennia. On the Althari homeworld, the revelation that their guidance had actually been oppression sparked massive riots. The Gorvani fleet, learning that their technological limitations had been artificially imposed, turned their weapons on Council facilities. Even loyal species like the Korthani began questioning everything they had been told. Admiral Harrison watched the reports streaming in from across the galaxy. The plan was working better than anyone had dared hope. "Sir," Captain Williams reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 47 different species. They want to join the human coalition." "And the Council fleet in Earth orbit?" "Neutralized. We're holding approximately 2 million prisoners." Harrison nodded. The human strategy had been brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to fight the entire galaxy, they had shown the galaxy the truth about its rulers. Once other species realized they had been oppressed, they became allies rather than enemies. But the real masterstroke was still to come. "Open a channel to all Council worlds," Harrison ordered. His image appeared on billions of screens across the galaxy, not just to government officials, but to every citizen of every species. "People of the galaxy," he began, "today you learned the truth about the system that has ruled you for thousands of years. You learned that your limitations were not natural, but imposed, that your development was not guided, but suppressed. Humanity offers you a choice. You can rebuild the old system with new masters who promise to be more benevolent, or you can join us in creating something different." Harrison gestured, and new images appeared. Human cities where dozens of species work together as equals. Research stations where scientists from different worlds collaborated freely. Schools where children of all species learned without restrictions. We offer partnership, not patronage. Freedom to grow, not permission to exist. The chance to become everything your species is capable of, without artificial limitations. The choice is yours. The response was overwhelming. Within days, over 300 species had formally requested to join the human coalition. The old Council structure simply ceased to exist as its member species abandoned it for something better. But Harrison wasn't done yet. "Former Council leadership," he said in a separate transmission, "you attempted to modify our children. You tried to remove the very traits that make us human, our curiosity, our independence, our refusal to accept limitations. You failed to understand something important about humanity." Harrison's expression grew cold. "Those traits aren't bugs to be fixed, they're features, and we've spent 30 years making sure our children had them in abundance." A new image appeared. Human children working alongside alien scientists, building impossible machines, asking questions that led to revolutionary discoveries. Children who had been raised knowing that the galaxy was vast and full of wonders, that every problem had a solution if you were clever enough to find it. "Your modification centers were meant to create obedient citizens," Harrison continued. "Instead, you've ensured that we raised a generation of revolutionaries." The final message was delivered directly to the surviving Council leadership, who were being held in comfortable but secure detention. "You will be treated fairly," Harrison told them. "You will be given food, shelter, medical care, and eventually the chance to join the new galactic community as equals. But you will never again have power over others. And if anyone, anywhere, ever again tries to tell humanity or any other species that they need to be corrected to fit someone else's idea of proper behavior." Harrison's smile was not pleasant. "Well, you've seen what humans do when we stop being polite." The war was over. The galaxy would never be the same. And in schools across hundreds of worlds, human children and alien children sat together, learning that the universe was full of possibilities for those brave enough to reach for them. The Council had wanted to change humanity. Instead, humanity had changed the galaxy.
The signal came on a Tuesday. It wasn't special at first, just another blip among thousands that NASA's deep space listening arrays picked up every day. But this one didn't fade. It repeated perfectly every 74 seconds. Dr. Alan Wright was eating a sandwich when his phone rang. The linguistics expert had worked with NASA before, but usually they sent emails. Phone calls meant urgency. "We need you in Houston today," said the voice on the other end. 6 hours later, Alan stood in a room full of screens, looking at wave patterns that made his heart race. These weren't random. They had structure, rhythm, intentional variations. This was language. "How long have you been receiving this?" he asked the technician beside him. 3 days. We had to be sure it wasn't equipment malfunction. The news spread quickly. An alien signal. First contact. World governments scrambled to form a response team. The United Nations Security Council held emergency meetings. Military forces went on high alert. Commander Olivia Martinez was appointed to lead the unified response team. She had 3 phases and 15 years of military service. Her first action was to bring together experts from different fields, not just scientists, but historians, philosophers, and psychologists. "We need to understand not just what they're saying, but how they think," she told her team during their first briefing. "This changes everything we know about our place in the universe." Alan worked day and night with his team of linguists. The signal contained patterns within patterns. Mathematical sequences followed by variations that suggested descriptive language. After 2 weeks, they identified what appeared to be a numbering system. "It's base 8, Alan explained to Olivia during their daily meeting. "They count differently than we do, but numbers are universal. It gives us a starting point." A breakthrough came in the second month. The signal contained a repeating section that matched the chemical composition of water, hydrogen, and oxygen. Then images started coming through, simple geometric shapes at first, then more complex diagrams. "They're teaching us their language," Alan said, "like how we would teach a child." By the 4th month, Alan's team could decode parts of the message. It contained a greeting and coordinates, a location near Jupiter's orbit. The aliens wanted to meet. The world's governments pooled resources to prepare Earth's most advanced spaceship, the UES Horizon. It was designed for deep space exploration, but never had the chance to fulfill its purpose. Now it would make the journey to the edge of our solar system with a crew of 20. Olivia was named Mission Commander. Alan would join as Chief Communications Officer. The rest of the crew included the best pilots, engineers, and scientists Earth had to offer. "We leave in 6 weeks, Olivia announced. "Training starts tomorrow." The preparation was intense. The crew learned protocols for every possible scenario. The engineers worked around the clock to make sure the ship could make the journey. World leaders prepared speeches for every outcome. On launch day, billions watched as the UES Horizon lifted off from the International Spaceport. For the first time in history, humans were united by a single purpose: to meet our cosmic neighbors. The journey to the coordinates took 17 days. As they approached, they detected nothing at first. Space looked empty. Then sensors picked up energy readings unlike anything they had seen before. A ship appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. It was massive, at least 20 times the size of the horizon. Its surface shimmered with colors that didn't seem possible. "Open communications," Olivia ordered. Her voice was steady despite the tension in the command center. Alan activated the transmission system they had designed based on the alien language patterns. "This is Commander Olivia Martinez of Earth. We come in peace to establish contact as requested." The response came instantly, a series of sounds and images that Alan quickly translated. "They're welcoming us," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "They say they represent something called the Galactic Council, and they've been watching us for a long time." Olivia looked at the alien ship through the view screen. This was just the beginning. "Tell them we're ready to talk." The meeting room inside the alien ship was enormous. Its walls curved upward into a dome that showed the stars outside. Alan felt small as he walked beside Olivia and the other chosen representatives from the UES Horizon. 5 aliens waited for them. They stood on long, thin legs with bodies covered in pale blue scales. Their eyes, 3 on each face, blinked in different patterns. "Welcome, humans," said the tallest alien. Its voice came through the translation devices the crew wore on their wrists. "I am Zix Moore, representative of the Galactic Council. Olivia stepped forward. Thank you for inviting us. We are honored to represent Earth. The aliens guided them to a circular table. Strange fruits and crystals filled bowls in the center. Ellen noticed how the aliens kept more distance from the humans than they did from each other. Your species is young, said HFY. The Council monitors developing worlds. Yours has reached the stage where contact is permitted. How many species are in this council? Olivia asked. 37 civilizations currently hold membership. Another alien answered. Some are older than your son. Ellen watched the aliens closely. Their third eyes seemed to track human movements with special attention. When Engineer Kevin Porter shifted suddenly in his seat, all three of Zixmore's eyes focused on him instantly. We would like to invite Earth to send delegates to our central world, Zixmore said. There you will learn about galactic history and the rules of interstellar cooperation. The humans exchanged excited glances. This was more than they had hoped for. How far is your central world? Olivia asked. With your current technology, the journey would take centuries, said Zixmore. We will provide transportation. Your travel time will be 3 Earth weeks. After returning to the horizon, the crew debated who should go. They needed to report back to Earth first. The communication took hours, with messages traveling between Jupiter's orbit and home. Earth has chosen 4 delegates, Olivia announced when the final message came through. Myself, Dr. Wright, Engineer Porter, and diplomat Susan Miller. Susan was calm and thoughtful. At 45, she had negotiated peace deals in 3 global conflicts. Her gray-streaked hair was always perfectly arranged, much like her carefully chosen words. The alien ship that came for them was smaller than the first, but still impressive. Inside, their quarters were comfortable but strange. The beds curved like shells. The food was created by machines that analyze human biology. Have you noticed how they watch us? Susan asked on the 3rd day of their journey. The 4 humans had gathered in Alan's room. Kevin nodded. They jump when I move too quickly. And they never let us see their technology up close. They're afraid of us, Alan said. But that doesn't make sense. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Olivia frowned. Maybe it's not about technology. Maybe it's about something else. As their journey continued, the humans noticed more odd behaviors. The aliens always traveled in groups when near humans. They kept conversations short. They avoided certain topics entirely. On the 12th day, they reached an enormous space station. It orbited a red giant star and stretched wider than Earth's moon. Ships of various designs docked along its outer ring. The Council Nexus, Zixmore announced, home to representatives from all member worlds and the center of galactic governance. As they docked, hundreds of different alien species gathered to see the humans. Alan heard whispers through his translation device. Are those really humans? They look so ordinary for Class 5. I heard they fight wars against their own kind. Alan didn't understand what Class 5 meant, but the tone made him uneasy. He caught Olivia's eye. She had heard it too. Welcome to your assessment, Zixmore said as the doors opened. The Council will now determine humanity's place in the galactic community. The humans stepped forward into a new world of wonders and secrets. None of them realized that their every reaction was being carefully measured and recorded. The true test had already begun. The assessment began the next day. The humans were separated and taken to different areas of the Council Nexus. Alan found himself in a large room with curved walls covered in symbols. 3 different alien species sat behind a tall desk, looking down at him. Dr. Alan Wright, said a thin alien with gray skin. We are the assessment committee. Please answer our questions truthfully. The questions seemed simple at first. They asked about Earth history, human biology, and social structures. Then the questions became stranger. How do humans respond to failure? Asked a bulky alien with 4 arms. Alan thought for a moment. We try again. We learn from our mistakes. Even after multiple failures, the alien pressed. Especially then, Alan said, some of our greatest achievements came after hundreds of failures. The aliens exchanged looks. In another room, engineer Kevin Porter faced physical tests. He ran on treadmills, solved puzzles, and built structures with unfamiliar tools. The aliens measured everything: his heartbeat, brain activity, even how much he sweated. "Please complete this task in 10 minutes, said his supervisor, pointing to a complex machine with missing parts. Kevin studied the problem. "This is impossible. There aren't enough parts." "You may stop then," the alien said, making notes. "I didn't say I was stopping," Kevin replied. He examined the room, found materials he could use, and began improvising solutions. The alien's three eyes widened. Susan Miller's assessment involved diplomatic scenarios. Aliens described conflicts between species and asked how Earth would respond. "What if a more advanced civilization demanded Earth's resources?" asked a floating jellyfish-like creature. "We would seek compromise first," Susan answered. "But humans protect what's ours. We would not surrender easily." The alien's tentacles curled tightly. Commander Olivia Martinez faced military simulations. They showed her battles between alien fleets and asked for her strategy. "This side is outnumbered 5-1. An insect-like alien said. "What would humans do?" "We would look for an advantage," Olivia explained. "Weather, terrain, surprise. Humans have won against greater numbers throughout our history." The alien clicked its mandibles nervously. After 5 days of tests, the 4 humans were finally allowed to meet again. They gathered in their shared living area, comparing experiences. "They're studying us like lab animals," Kevin said. His patience was wearing thin. "It's more than that," Alan replied. "I've been listening to conversations in the hallways. They keep mentioning psychological profiles and Class 5 ratings." "I heard that too," Susan nodded. "And did you notice how they react when we don't give up on a challenge?" Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. 6 more rushed into their quarters. "A minor emergency. Please remain here." As soon as the alien left, Kevin stood up. "I'm going to find out what's happening." "Kevin, wait," Olivia cautioned. "We shouldn't." But Kevin was already at the door. He pressed the panel that opened it and stepped into the hallway. The others followed reluctantly. They found chaos. Aliens rushed in all directions. Screens showed a ship docked at the station's far side. Kevin bumped into a small alien who dropped a data tablet. When Kevin reached down to help, the alien shrieked and backed away. "What's your problem?" Kevin snapped, his frustration boiling over. Every alien in the corridor froze. Then, as one, they pressed themselves against the walls, creating distance from Kevin. The silence was broken by Sixmore's voice. "Please return to your quarters immediately." On the way back, Alan noticed a terminal with an alien script he could partially read. The words "human" and "aggressive response" were highlighted. "They're not just assessing us," Alan whispered to the others. "They're afraid of us." That night, as the others slept, Alan sat awake, piecing together the clues. Why would advanced aliens fear humans? What was a Class 5 psychological profile? And most importantly, what happened to the other species that received this classification? He needed to find answers, and he suspected they wouldn't like what they discovered. Susan found the access codes. "One of the council members dropped this," she told the others, showing the small crystal card. "It was during yesterday's diplomatic session." They met in Alan's room after midnight station time. The corridors were quiet, with most aliens resting. "Do we even know where to use that?" Olivia asked. Alan nodded. "I've been mapping the station in my head. There's a secured area on level 12. The guards changed shifts at this time. They moved carefully through the dimly lit hallways. When aliens appeared, they ducked into side passages. Kevin noticed that most doors opened automatically for the aliens. "They don't use locks much," he whispered. They trust each other. The secured area had a simple entrance, a glowing panel beside a round door. Susan placed the crystal card against it. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a vast room filled with floating screens and data columns. Light pulsed through tubes in the ceiling. The archive. Alan breathed. This must be their historical records. Olivia pointed to a control panel. Can you operate it? Alan studied the symbols. Some of these matched the language patterns I've been learning. Let me try. He pressed several glowing sections. Screens lit up around them, showing star maps and alien text. We need to work quickly, Susan said, watching the door. They could check this room any time. Alan focused on finding search terms. He entered what he thought meant human and Earth. The system responded with thousands of entries. Too many, he muttered. Then he remembered the phrase he had seen. Class 5. The results narrowed dramatically. The screens showed images of Earth, human anatomy, and historical events. They've been watching us for centuries, Kevin said, looking at pictures of ancient battles. Alan found another term connected to their files. Vorax. He entered it as a search. The screens changed to show a species none of them recognized. Tall beings with sharp features and eyes that glowed in the images. Another species. Susan wondered. Alan read the translated text. The Vorax were a civilization from the Outer Rim. They caused a massive war. More screens showed planets burning, fleets in battle, and star systems being destroyed. The Galactic War lasted 1 million years, Alan read. The Vorax refused surrender even when defeat was certain. Kevin pointed to another screen. Look at this. They have a classification system for all species. The display showed 5 categories. Class 1 species were described as peaceful, cooperative, focused on harmony. Class 2 were diplomatic but cautious. Class 3 were territorial yet reasonable. Class 4 were potentially dangerous, requiring monitoring. Class 5 was labeled simply, extinction level threat. That can't be right, Olivia said. They think we're an extinction level threat. Alan found more information. According to this, species are classified by psychological profiles, not technology. Class 5 species have a specific trait that makes them dangerous. Before he could read more, alarms sounded throughout the archive. Red lights pulsed on the walls. They know we're here, Susan said. Download what you can, Olivia ordered. We need to leave. Alan found a data transfer system. He copied as many files as possible to a crystal similar to Susan's card. They ran from the archive, taking a different route back to their quarters. They'd reached their rooms just before guards flooded the corridors. Safe inside, they examined what Alan had managed to download. The Vorax were the last Class 5 species, he told them, reading the data. They were eliminated by the combined council forces. Eliminated, Kevin repeated. You mean wiped out? Alan nodded grimly. And according to these assessments, humans share the exact same psychological profile. Susan looked pale. What trait makes us so dangerous that they would destroy an entire species? Alan scrolled through more information. It's not completely clear, but there's one word that keeps appearing in the Vorax and human assessments. What word? Olivia asked. Alan looked up at them, his face serious. Persistence. The humans stayed awake all night, reading the stolen files. Alan translated while the others listened. What they learned changed how they saw themselves and the universe. The Council has studied over 10,000 intelligent species, Alan explained. They found that most accept natural limits. When faced with something impossible, they adapt their goals. But not humans, Kevin said. No. According to their studies, when humans hear the word impossible, we see it as a challenge. Ellen pointed to examples on the screen. When experts said breaking the sound barrier was impossible, we built planes that flew faster. When they said we couldn't reach the moon, we did it anyway. Olivia frowned. That's just progress. Why does that frighten them? Because the Vorax were the same. Ellen showed images of the extinct aliens. They kept pushing boundaries until they developed weapons that could destroy stars. When the Council tried to stop them, the Vorax started a war they couldn't win. And they think we'll do the same? Susan asked. Yes. The Council believes any Class 5 species will eventually threaten galactic stability. Ellen scrolled through more files. These reports predict two possible futures for humanity. Either we destroy ourselves through our own technology, or we expand across the galaxy, pushing aside other species. Kevin stood up angrily. That's ridiculous. We're not conquerors. Not yet, Alan said quietly. But history shows we're always reaching for more. We see barriers as temporary obstacles. A soft chime interrupted them. Morning on the station. Their door slid open, and 6 more entered with 2 guards. The Council requests your presence, the alien said. Its 3 eyes didn't blink. They followed 6 more to a massive chamber. Hundreds of aliens from different species sat in rising rows like a giant theater. At the center was a platform where 7 elderly aliens waited. The High Council, Susan whispered. The eldest alien, with pale skin and long silver hair, spoke first. Humans of Earth, your assessment is complete. Elen noticed how the guards positioned themselves around the humans. Their hands stayed near their weapons. We have reached a decision regarding Earth's status, the elder continued. Based on your psychological profile, humans are classified as a Class 5 species. Murmurs spread through the watching aliens. What does that mean for Earth? Olivia asked directly. The Council is divided, the elder said. Some believe your species should be contained to your home system. Others suggest more preventative measures. The humans exchanged worried glances. Preventative measures sounded like what happened to the Vorax. We have noticed unusual activity in our archive, another council member said. You accessed restricted files. The guards moved closer. We did, Alan admitted. We know about the Vorax. We know you fear our persistence. The chamber went silent. Then you understand the danger, the elder said. When a species refuses to accept limits, they eventually threaten all others. You're wrong, Kevin said loudly. Several aliens flinched at his tone. Human persistence isn't about conquest. It's about solving problems. Susan stepped forward. Throughout our history, we've faced diseases that seemed incurable, distances that seemed uncrossable, and problems that seemed unsolvable. We didn't give up. That is precisely our concern, the elder replied. What happens when you decide other species are your problem to solve? We're not the Vorax, Olivia stated firmly. We don't seek to dominate. We seek to understand. Alan had been studying the elder's face. You're afraid because you can't predict us. Most species in your council follow logical patterns. Humans sometimes defy logic. Yes, the elder admitted. Your kind will attempt the impossible even when all evidence suggests failure. This trait makes you unpredictable. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Screens lit up showing a massive ship approaching the station. The tribunal vessel, gasped one council member. They're early. The elder turned to the humans. The tribunal is our oldest and most powerful member species. They have final authority on Class 5 designations. The elder's next words sent chills through the humans. They have come to decide Earth's fate. The tribunal members arrived in the council chamber 2 hours later. They were tall, graceful beings with skin that changed colors like flowing water. Their eyes were large and completely black. 3 of them entered, wearing simple white robes. We have reviewed the human assessment, the lead tribunal member said. Its voice was soft, yet carried throughout the chamber. We must conduct our own tests before making a final decision. The humans were taken to a new area of the station. The rooms here were ancient, with walls made of actual stone rather than metal or synthetic materials. These chambers predate the council itself. Zixmore explained as they walked. The tribunal insists on traditional methods. The four humans were separated again. This time, their tests were stranger and more difficult. Ellen found himself in a room with no visible exits. A voice spoke from nowhere. "You are trapped. There is no way out. What do you do?" Ellen examined the walls carefully. "I look for hidden exits. I test the floor and ceiling." "There are none," the voice replied. "The situation is impossible." Ellen smiled slightly. "Nothing is impossible. I would use the materials in the room to create a tool. I would signal for help." In another room, Olivia faced a battle simulation. Her virtual ship was surrounded by enemy vessels. "Your weapons are disabled," the simulation announced. "Your engines are failing. Surrender is the only option." Olivia studied the scenario. "I would reroute power from life support for one last engine burst. I would aim for the command ship and force them to move, creating an escape route." "You would risk your crew's lives?" the voice asked. "To save them from certain capture." "Yes, humans don't give up just because the odds are bad." Kevin's test involved a puzzle with moving pieces. Every time he nearly solved it, the rules changed. "This is unfair," he complained after the fifth change. "Yes," agreed the voice. "Many situations in life are unfair. Do you quit?" Kevin gritted his teeth. "No, I adapt to the new rules." Susan faced diplomatic scenarios that had no good solutions. Every choice led to conflict. "These situations are designed to fail," she said after the third scenario. "Yes," the voice acknowledged. "How does that make you feel?" Susan thought carefully. Frustrated, but determined to find another approach. After the tests, the four humans were brought to a small waiting room. They looked tired but resolute. "They're pushing us to breaking point," Kevin said, "seeing when we'll give up." Ellen nodded. "And we keep showing them exactly what they fear, that we don't accept no-win scenarios." A screen on the wall suddenly activated. It showed a different part of the station where council members argued heatedly. "The transmission is leaking into our systems," Olivia realized. "They don't know we can see this." On screen, a group of aliens faced the High Council. Their leader, a reptilian being with scarlet scales, spoke angrily. "We cannot wait for the tribunal's decision. Humans are too dangerous. Their ship must be disabled now, and Earth's communications network destroyed." Aelin leaned forward. "They're planning to sabotage Earth." The High Council elder raised a hand. "The tribunal has not ruled yet. We must follow protocol. By then, it could be too late." The reptilian alien insisted. "My faction has studied the files. Humans develop technology at an alarming rate. In 50 years, they could match our capabilities. We must act now." The screen went black suddenly. The four humans looked at each other in horror. "We need to warn Earth," Olivia said urgently. "How?" Kevin asked. "The UES horizon is our only link home, and it's docked here." Ellen thought quickly. "The communication system. If we can access the main array, we might be able to send a message." Susan stood up. "We need to find out more about this faction's plans first. They mentioned files. They must have their own assessment of Earth." "Split up," Kevin suggested. Olivia nodded. "Alan and I will try to access communication arrays. Susan and Kevin, find out what this faction is planning." As they reached the door, it slid open. Zixmore stood there with several guards. "The tribunal has reached a preliminary decision," the alien announced. "They wish to speak with you immediately." Behind Zixmore, the humans saw more guards heading toward the docking bays. Time was running out for Earth. The tribunal chamber was silent as the humans entered. The three tribunal members sat on tall chairs, looking down at them. Behind them stood representatives from many alien species, including the angry reptilian leader they had seen on the screen. "Humans of Earth," the lead tribunal member began. "We have studied your responses. Your persistence is remarkable." "And dangerous," added the reptilian alien. The Crimson faction demands immediate containment. The lead tribunal member raised a hand for silence. We have not reached our final decision. Olivia stepped forward. While you debate, we've discovered that some factions plan to attack Earth without your approval. Gasps and angry shouts filled the chamber. This is a lie. The reptilian alien hissed. We saw your meeting, Alan said calmly. You plan to disable our ship and destroy Earth's communications. The High Council elder looked alarmed. Is this true, Ambassador Craxforn? The reptilian alien's scales darkened with anger. The Crimson faction does what must be done when others hesitate. Zixmore moved closer to the humans. I warned against bringing them here. Class 5 species cannot be trusted. We're not the ones planning attacks, Kevin pointed out. The lead tribunal member stood. Its skin rippled with blue and gold patterns. This division shows the very problem we face. Fear leads to rash action. Susan saw an opportunity. You've all decided what humans are based on tests and observations, but you haven't asked what we want. The chamber grew quiet. Tell us, said the tribunal member. We want to learn, to grow, to explore, Susan explained. Yes, we persist when faced with challenges, but our greatest achievements come from cooperation, not conquest. Pretty words, Craxforn sneered, but your history shows conflict and violence. It also shows healing and progress, Alan countered. Every species has a violent past. We're evolving beyond it. A sudden commotion at the chamber entrance interrupted them. A council messenger rushed in, looking panicked. The human ship, the Horizon. It's been sabotage. Olivia turned to Craxforn with fury in her eyes. What have you done? The reptilian smiled coldly. Ensured the safety of the galaxy. The ship's engines will overload when it attempts to leave. Your crew will be blamed for the accident. And Earth? Ellen demanded. A blocking field has been activated around your solar system, Craxforn said. No signals in or out. Earth is effectively quarantined. The High Council elder rose angrily. This action was not authorized. It was necessary, Craxforn insisted. The humans cannot return home to warn Earth about us. Kevin stepped toward the reptilian, his hands clenched. Guards moved to block him. You'll start a war, Kevin warned. Earth will see this as an attack. Your primitive planet is no threat, Craxforn dismissed. Ellen suddenly laughed. The sound was so unexpected that everyone turned to look at him. What amuses you, human? Zixmore asked suspiciously. You just proved our point, Ellen explained. You told us something is impossible, that Earth can't fight back. That's exactly what we humans never accept. The lead tribunal member studied Alan closely. Explain. By trying to contain us, you're creating the very threat you fear, Alan said. Humans respond to barriers by finding ways around them. If you isolate Earth, we won't give up. We'll work harder to reach the stars. Susan nodded. And when we do break through your barrier, we'll remember who tried to trap us. Olivia addressed the entire chamber. You have a choice. Treat us as enemies, and we become enemies. Treat us as partners, and we can accomplish amazing things together. The tribunal members conferred quietly among themselves. The chamber waited in tense silence. Finally, the lead member spoke. We require time to consider this situation. The humans will be returned to secure quarters while we deliberate. As guards led them from the chamber, Alan whispered to the others. We need a plan. We have to reach the Horizon and warn our crew. Susan smiled slightly. I think I know how. Remember what we learned about the station's systems. Kevin nodded. Time to show them what human persistence really means. Back on Earth, President Samantha Warren stood in the Global Defense Center, staring at silent communication screens. Why can't we reach the Horizon? She demanded. Her advisor looked worried. Unknown, Madam President. All signals to deep space are being blocked. The president's eyes narrowed. Prepare our defenses. Something's coming. The secure quarters weren't very secure for humans who refused to accept limitations. Kevin found a panel in the ceiling that led to maintenance tunnels. Within an hour, all 4 humans were crawling through the station's inner workings. The docking bay should be 3 sections ahead, Alan whispered, checking the mental map he had created during their time on the station. They emerged near the UES horizon. 6 guards patrolled around it. "We need a distraction," Olivia said. Susan pointed to a control panel. "Those regulate the station's gravity systems. If we adjust them." Kevin grinned. "I like how you think." A few minutes later, the gravity in the docking bay suddenly reversed. The unprepared guards floated upward, shouting in confusion. The humans, who had braced themselves, pushed off toward the horizon. Inside their ship, they found their crew locked in the main hall. "Commander," the pilot exclaimed as Olivia released them. "They said you ordered us confined." "We've been betrayed," Olivia explained quickly. "The ship is sabotaged to explode when we try to leave." Engineer Morris, a quiet man with steady hands, spoke up. "Then we don't leave. We fix it." While Kevin and the engineering team worked on the sabotaged engines, alarms blared throughout the station. "They know we've escaped," Susan said, watching external cameras. "We don't have much time." Alan was at the communication console. "The blocking field around Earth is coming from a satellite near our moon. If we can send a burst transmission on a frequency they're not monitoring." He worked quickly, creating a message explaining everything they had learned. He added a final note. "Do not show fear. Show innovation instead." "Ready to transmit," Alan announced. "Engines are fixed," Kevin reported at the same moment. "But they'll blow the docking clamps before letting us leave." Olivia made a decision. "We're not leaving yet." The station shook as armed ships surrounded the docking bay. The tribunal themselves arrived with the High Council. "Humans," Zixmore's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Surrender immediately." Olivia activated the external communication. "We will open our doors, but only to the tribunal members. We have a proposal." To everyone's surprise, the tribunal agreed. The 3 tall beings entered the horizon cautiously. "You demonstrate the very trait we fear," the lead tribunal member said. "When confined, you escape. When blocked, you find another path." "Yes," Olivia acknowledged. "But that persistence can benefit everyone." Alan showed them the transmission he had prepared for Earth. "We're not asking our leaders to fight. We're asking them to innovate, to show the galaxy what human creativity can achieve when guided by peace." Susan stepped forward. "Your council has existed for millions of years, yet many problems remain unsolved. Perhaps you need a species that doesn't accept impossibility." "We could be your problem solvers," Kevin added. "Your innovators." The tribunal members' skin shifted through colors as they considered. "What do you propose?" the lead member finally asked. "A new classification," Olivia said. "One that recognizes our persistence as a strength when properly channeled. And a new relationship. Earth joins the galactic community not as a threat, but as a partner in solving the impossible." 5 days later, President Warren stood before the United Nations. On screens behind her appeared the faces of the tribunal members, the first alien broadcast to Earth. "People of Earth," the president announced, "today we join a greater community. We face a unique challenge. The galaxy fears our persistence, our refusal to accept limits. Our task now is to show them that this trait, when guided by wisdom, creates rather than destroys." The Earth Galactic Charter was signed that day. Its first article read, "The word impossible shall be understood as not yet achieved rather than cannot be done." In the years that followed, human scientists and engineers spread throughout the galaxy, tackling problems other species had abandoned as unsolvable. The Council created a new classification, Class P, for persistence. Earth was its first member. Alan, who became Earth's first ambassador to the Council, often smiled when aliens asked about the strange human quality that had first terrified them. "Persistence isn't about refusing to fail," he would explain. "It's about believing that failure is just another step toward success. The word that once made the galaxy fear humanity became the word that defined humanity's greatest gift to the stars.